Great to have my old friend Carl Palmer here. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. So you're going to be here in Chicago very, very shortly. Perhaps you could tell people about what they can experience and see when they see the Carl Palmer show.
Okay, so this it's actually called The Return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and it's Greg Lake and Keith Emerson on film performing with me, completely in sync. All of the audio that you hear from the keyboards, the voice, the acoustic guitar, everything is being mixed live. In other words, footage of Greg singing is completely in sync with what's happening on that night. So each mix, each night is being mixed freshly. It's brand new. It's like you are going to see the band. And the reason for that is the original DVD that the music and the soundtrack was and all the video work was taken from was a DVD from the Royal Albert Hall in London. We did 2 nights there. It's a 5-camera shoot, but the audio was recorded separately. And that's what gives me the opportunity to actually be able to do this, because all of the visual aspects are in sync with the audio. So what we've done is completely wipe the drums. Then I've gone through the DVD and removed myself from all corners, because you can see me live. I'm going to be set up on the stage. Greg is on screen 1, Keith is on screen 2, or vice versa. There's another screen downstage where we project vintage footage, and it goes like that. We play about 7 songs together, and it's all in sync. It's like the guys, it's like Greg is there singing, playing his bass. All the keyboards are being mixed with the drums, with the bass guitar, with the voice as it happens. The voice is on a separate track. And all of this just syncs up. It's all on a click track, which I get through my monitor. And that's what we've got. So we've got something which is highly original, probably the only show touring like this of its kind. It's not a hologram. It's the real deal. This is Keith and Greg at their very best. Early 90s, I would say, about 92, 3, I think it's somewhere around there. The DVD was released on Sanctuary, and Sanctuary sold out. And within about 3 or 4 weeks, Sanctuary had done their deal with Universal, and this DVD got lost in the wash. So it wasn't something that people were really super familiar with. I think it sold about 12,000 copies. Which at the time we were pulling our hair out and saying, hey, this can't be right. Something's got to be done. Right now, I'm quite pleased because not too many people have seen this footage. So it's all relatively fresh and new. But what is absolutely new is the actual soundtrack, as I say, is being mixed every night. So the acoustic sort of qualities of the building are different to the night before. It's a different mix to what happened previously. So this is the closest you get to seeing Emerson, Lake and Palmer again live. Hence the title, The Return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
So what songs from the catalog of ELP can people expect to see?
Okay, so you're expecting to hear Welcome Back. The classics like Lucky Man. I'm playing other pieces with Paul and Simon, like Hoedown. I play Fanfare of the Common Man with Keith and Greg. We've got Welcome Back, Keith and Greg, Paper Blood. There's a lot of stuff like that from the beginning. Yeah, you'd have to come and see it to believe it. But it's about an hour, 40 minutes long.
In addition to the ELP stuff, will we be seeing or hearing anything from the Asia catalog?
No, nothing at all from Asia. This is the name of the show is The Return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
So you're just sticking to that.
Yeah, we are. We're playing things like Tarkus with my band, with Paul and Simon. So there's some in-depth stuff, that's about 15, 17 minutes long. So it's a great spread across the ELP catalogue. So you get a chance to hear most things, some of the early hits like Lucky Man, as I said, and some of the big instrumentals like Fanfare, which really do feature Keith Emerson in a big way, probably at his very best on that footage.
Right. So you have a full band accompanying you in addition to the other guys as well, right?
Correct, yeah. Paul and Simon. Paul is on lead guitar, vocals. Simon is on the Chapman stick and 6-string bass. And Paul sings some songs. I sing a song. And then we've got Greg Lake coming on and doing the real business on a major ELP track. So, yeah, it's quite an event, really, musically.
Yeah, I would imagine for the first little while, this was probably difficult to sync up properly, right?
I mean, it all took time, yeah. It's just a matter getting it right. Really, I mean, the editing took about 8 to 10 weeks, maybe a bit longer. Actually, we're still editing today. And there's lots of other bits of footage, vintage footage that's in there that showed on the third screen. Various things, that we've had from the past. Keith flying up in a plane, a Messerschmitt or whatever it was he was flying at the time. So there's lots of footage which we incorporate within the show with Keith and Greg performing.
So you were professionally trained. I know some of your influences include a Chicagoan by the name of Gene Krupa. You were a big fan, were you?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Royal Academy for a while with James Blaze. I went to the Guildhall of Music of Gilbert Webster. I had about 5 other drum teachers. So I've had a lot of musical education as far as drumming is concerned. And yeah, I mean, basically, I didn't intend to become like a rock star. That wasn't the name of the game. The name of the game was to become a working musician and make your living at doing what you're doing. The fact I got lucky many times, more than most players can ever dream about, is just, it's the luck of the draw, really. And I'm privileged, and I know that, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, when ELP started really gaining some traction back in the 70s, were you thinking to yourself, "Wow, this is kind of unusual because prog rock, is a tougher sell than maybe pop rock would be, but we're making it work, and look at how many people are out there in the audience."
I never really thought about that, to tell you the truth. I mean, prog rock comes from England anyway, so it was sort of in our DNA, and the fact it got up here and the American audiences love the music, because there's such a wide variety of music in America. Everything is workable and everything is acceptable, really. You just got to give it a go. I mean, we were kind of a little bit surprised because it was a keyboard driven band. We didn't have a guy who had a soulful voice. He had a choir boy voice, great singer. So it was everything that America hadn't seen before. So it was quite an individual band, and he was playing classical adaptations. So we didn't think it would take off as quickly as what it did, but it did. And we're grateful for that.
Probably one of the reasons it worked is because it was different.
Correct.
So one last question before we go here. I like to ask people this question. Funny stories from the road, things that went wrong or didn't go according to plan that you now can look back at and go, well, that was pretty funny.
There's been so many moments over the years, to kind of just pull one out of the hat. I would say probably not a funny moment. I suppose this time we had our own plane and one of the engines stopped. It was a propeller back in the 70s, same plane that Leonard Skinner had. We had the same model, and that was probably one of the scariest moments, not the funniest. You picked the funniest, I picked the scariest. And that was something that happened to us. After a concert, we jumped on the plane up in the air for about half an hour, and one of the engines stopped, and we had to make an emergency landing. And the problem with that being, when you've got one engine, you need planes are certified. Prop planes were certified to land on with one engine, but you need a runway twice as long. So we had to travel another 45 minutes before we come across a runway that was long enough. That was, I would say, is the scariest, not the funniest. It was funny once we got back into the limousine and drove back to the hotels. We thought, wow, escape death again. Then we laughed, but we weren't laughing when it was happening.
So a different plane, not the same plane, but the same model as the one that
Correct.
Leonard Skinner ran into trouble with.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
So was this previous or after they had their difficulties with it?
I can't remember. I think they had their difficulties afterwards.
Wow. So this was almost a bit of a premonition of sorts.
Well, we stopped using the plane after that. Yeah, we did stop using that particular plane.
Unbelievable. There must have been something wrong with that model of plane then for so many people to have difficulties with it, because the legend has it that Aerosmith passed on using the one that Leonard Skinner ended up using because they didn't feel confident in it.
Yeah, I think they could afford something better than a Convair, which is what that was.
Yeah.
That was an old. So we went to this because we had a Learjet before that. The Learjet, whilst it was fast, it was incredibly cramped with all of the luggage. That's why we moved on to like a Convair, because it was bigger. And we thought, yeah, it's older, it can't fly as fast, but there's more room. It's more comfortable, but it didn't work. After that, we stopped flying, and we either drove, and we very rarely use commercial airlines, because if you've got to catch a connection here in America, as you know, and even then it was pretty bad, so we decided to drive.
Right. Yeah, I would after that experience as well. I would as well. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing the show here in Chicago and much continued success with this. This is a really, really interesting way of presenting the music of ELP, and I applaud you for, turning over every stone in your pursuit of doing this in a way that can be really exciting for people who are ELP fans, maybe seeing this for the very first time.
Yeah. I'm privileged to be able to bring it, and I hope it brings a lot of people out to see it, because it is one of a kind. And as I say, it's probably the only show touring like this at the moment. Other people will catch up and will do this, because this is the way. If you've got a DVD where the audio is recorded separately, then you have the facility with the technology that we have today to be able to do this. And anyway, first out the box, it's the return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So come along and see it.